Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today we're going to be doing Buddhist Chanting. This is part 3 of our 4-part series where I've been sharing how to develop a Buddhist chanting practice. We started this 2 weeks ago where I went through all the various benefits of why a Buddhist chanting practice can actually help you, all related to training your own mind, developing concentration and mindfulness, awareness of the mind, focus on the breath, easing the mind into meditation to help gain more benefit out of meditation itself. Nothing to do with any magical or mystical things, but just to help you cultivate and train the mind to perform more optimally, coming to the middle. Well, if you've been chanting along with us in class, or if you've been practicing at home and kind of progressing and developing your practice, today's class is an opportunity for you to practice together as a class, but also for you to gain some personal guidance. Because after we practice as a class, I'm going to open things up to anybody who's interested to open up their microphone in Zoom and actually chant and see how you're doing and get you some practice and get you some guidance. And it also helps if you're kind of shy or something like this, because part of the path is to eliminate shyness. So if you feel that you're a little bit shy, then that's the perfect opportunity for you to step forward and train the mind. There's nothing to be afraid of here. There's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. But if the mind remains shy and it doesn't want to go forward, then it's fearing something typically, or there's some craving, desire, attachment there that's causing the shyness. So one of the ways that you can get over that is by applying right effort, where you apply effort to eliminate the unwholesome qualities and arise wholesome qualities by stepping forward and putting the mind in a position where it needs to practice chanting, because maybe it's fearful or shy of that. And by you actually doing it and seeing that there's no harm that comes to you, then the mind can then reside more peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy in these kind of situations. And then you take the benefits of this beyond our class here, is that when you're in a public setting or you're at work or you're around friends or family, rather than being shy to speak up, if you train the mind actively to eliminate shyness, then you'll feel more comfortable and more at ease to share and speak up in certain situations. So this is an opportunity today for you to practice your chanting together as a group, practice individually and get some guidance on your chanting. But also, if you're feeling shy at all, it's an opportunity for you to shed some of that craving, desire, attachment that's causing the fear or the shyness by volunteering to chant and see that it doesn't cause you any harm, it doesn't cause us any harm, and we're all very joyful to hear you chant and enjoy that. So I'll be opening things up for that later as we go, so you guys can think about that. Anybody who is in any of the live streaming sites like Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, or any of these places, you can come into our Zoom session, because in our Zoom session, you'll be able to open up your microphone and actually chant. And if you do that, then like I mentioned, you'll be able to get some personal guidance. So wherever you're watching this, either in Facebook or YouTube, you should see the login criteria to come into Zoom. But if you're in Twitch or Periscope, there's no login criteria there. You'll have to come into the Facebook or YouTube first to see the login criteria and then log into Zoom, where we can all be together as a group chanting and having a good time. It's like a chanting party. So thank you all for being here, and look forward to sharing chanting and helping you guys along to develop your practice. So let's go to the slides where we'll just practice this one time through today and give you guys a chance just to kind of warm up the vocal cords a little bit and kind of feel a little bit comfortable with the chanting. Remember, we've got the 3 chants, the triple gem, which starts out with the Arahang Samma Sambuddhassa, and then we've got the Namo Tassa, and we've got the Iti Piso. So James is kind enough to do the slides and switch those around for the people in Zoom, and I'm doing the same thing for the people in the live streaming sites, and you should be able to see these and follow along. But if you're starting to develop your memorization of these chants, when we get to the chant that you feel like you've memorized, keep your eyes closed, because typically that's how you will chant, is with your eyes closed typically. But when you're first learning, you're going to do it with your eyes open because you need to see the text to prompt you. But once your memory becomes more refined and you start retaining these chants, you don't actually need to open your eyes. You can do it with them closed. So if you see an opportunity for you to close the eyes while you're chanting, go ahead and do that and kind of sink into it a bit more and help to cultivate that memory. All right, so let's start with this first one. We're just going to go one time through, and then after the triple gem, James, let's just go right into the Namo Tassa and right into Iti Piso. We won't even stop or pause. I'm not going to cue the breath. We're just going to warm up the vocal cords with just one time through. Okay, so bring the hands together, palm to palm at your sternum. Take a nice deep breath. Arahang Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavantang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddha Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, lots of claps. Yay. All right. Now, I would like to open up the floor to any of you guys in Zoom that would like to do some chanting. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do one at a time, where if you would like to open up your mic, you just raise your hand electronically. James will know that you're interested in volunteering. And you're just only going to do the Arahang Sama Sambuddhassa. And you'll just go through and we'll all listen to you. We'll all give you claps. We'll all enjoy hearing your chanting. And then at the end, I'll just give you a couple pointers to help you improve any kind of tone or tempo or pronunciations or things like this to help you deepen your practice and develop it further. So now that we're in our third class together, you would have had about 2 weeks to kind of work on this. So now's a good time for you to kind of get some personal guidance and get the support of your community, that we're all encouraging you and supporting you in your practice to develop chanting. And if we were all in the same room together, if we were all in a temple together, we would all be chanting together and encouraging each other. And there's no reason why we can't do that even online. So that's what I would like to do for you guys, is just open up the floor to anybody who would like to practice this one. Then we'll move on to the Namo Tassa, and then we'll do the ETP So over to you, James, and anybody who would like to volunteer, just raise your hand.
I'll be willing to volunteer. And all right, well, go ahead and get started.
Okay, we're listening.
Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavanang Abhivatemi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
All right, good job, James. All right, wonderful. So I think this is kind of like American Idol a little bit, where like when you first start out singing the song, maybe the voice is a little bit shaky, but then you kind of settle into it and it starts like coming out better, because that first line, it wasn't shaky, but there was just like a couple little pauses here and there that wouldn't normally be there. But the second and third phrase, you just like nailed it pretty much. So I think like American Idol people might be a little bit nervous when they first start, but that was wonderful. I think just settle into it a little bit more. You probably don't do this with hundreds and thousands of people listening usually, so you're probably much more settled in your practice and you're not being recorded for a podcast, right? The only thing that I would mention is in the middle of that third phrase, you said sung ho. It should be sung ko. So supatipano bhagavato Sawaka Sangho. I heard ho, but it should be ko. But other than that, outstanding, James. Very good. Good job. Nice.
For pointers.
Yeah, very good. Who's next? Who would like to volunteer?
Okay, did this one to be me?
Okay, this is Bassam.
Yes. Sure.
Contestant number 563285.
Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhan Bhagavanam Abhivatemi Sawakatu Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamma Namasami Supatipanum Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
Nice, Bassam. Very good, buddy. Very good. I have a question for you. Do you feel like you're kind of holding your voice up kind of high in your chest?
Yeah.
Do you feel when you're chanting like it's kind of like being held like up in your chest a little bit? I don't know. So do you feel that? Try to relax that down a little bit where you're just kind of settled into it and you're not holding any kind of tension or stress up in the chest or, kind of the lower throat. Just kind of settle into it a little bit more. You want to try that one again? Let's just see if we can hear any kind of difference. If you just kind of settle the mind, just relax the mind, take a nice deep breath before, and then just settle into it.
Okay. Arahan Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutan Bhagavanam Abhivateni.
Yes, that's right. Keep going.
Sawakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhamma Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sankho Sankan Namami.
Nice. Good job. Awesome. Yeah. Good correction. Good correction. So you see, like if the mind has any kind of, let's just call it stress, even though it's not significant stress, but if it has any kind of anything that it's holding on to, it's going to change the sound of the voice. So I could kind of tell that it seemed like you were kind of holding something up in your chest, because I used to do that too. So this second time through, there was just a subtle difference where it seems like you were more relaxed into it and just kind of let it go. Rather than trying to hold on to anything, you just kind of let it go a little bit more. So that's very good. And that's one of the ways that chanting can actually improve your life practice. It improves the condition of the mind. Because if you hear that when you're chanting, your mind is uptight or stressed or shy or anxious or having anxiety, or if you're chanting too fast or too rapidly, this is all indication of what's going on in the mind. So I could tell from the sound of your voice what was going on in the mind. There's just a little smidget, like a little hair of stress, but now you've eradicated that and the voice settled down a little bit and sounded more natural to me, and probably felt more natural to you as well. This is where the Buddha talks about when there's no longer discontentedness in the mind, there's no longer stress in the mind, the body becomes very tranquil. So that's part of this path to enlightenment, is the more you relax the mind, then you'll notice that the body won't have any aches and pains and heaviness in the body, because the mind has been enlightened. It's light. So the body becomes very light and very tranquil as well. So if you're ever noticing any stress in the physical body, any tension, that's because there's tension in the mind. That's why the body feels tension. It's our indication. It's one of those red lights that tells us something's not right in the mind. So if you feel tension in your shoulders or your neck or something like this, be it not an injury, a physical injury, then look at the mind and see what's going on in the mind. And then if you relax the mind, you can relax the tension. And eventually, as the mind becomes more and more enlightened, the body becomes completely tranquil, where there's no stress in the mind and there's no stress in the body. So therefore, there's no stress in the body. So wonderful. Thank you, James and Bassam. Who's next? Oh, we got Nick volunteering. Oh, sorry, I'm taking over your job there, James. You're the moderator. Or is it Bassam is the moderator? I'm not quite sure. Or Manal.
Well, now that Nick has volunteered, I've asked him to unmute, so we'll hear from Nick.
Okay, great.
Okay. I don't think I remember the exact times to do the bow. It's only twice in this one, if I remember correctly.
The bow.
I'm going to give it
The bow's 3 times at the end of each phrase. So wherever you see a period, that's the end of a phrase.
Oh, okay.
And then that's
All
where
right.
people, you don't have to, but that's what a lot of people do.
All right. I think I can remember the period. Thank you very much, teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavantang Abhivatemi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasemi Supatipano Bhagavato Sawakang Sangho Sangkang Namami.
All right, clap it up for Nick. Good job, Nick. Yeah, everyone's clapping for you. You can't hear it because they're all on mute, but you can see it if you're looking at it. You're still working on your memorization of these, right? Because you just learned these like 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's noticeable that you're working on your memorization, but you're getting into the flow of it. You're getting into the flow of it. I can help you with a couple of pronunciations on phrase 2 and phrase 3. Let me just say these for you. Sawakato bhagavata dhammo dhammang namasami. So kind of smooth out, and there's some pronunciations for you there. And then Supatipano bhagavato sawaka sangho Sangkang Namami. So you hear that?
I do.
Okay, so let's have you do it again and see how you can maybe smooth it out just a little bit. And of course, you're working on the memorization, so it's not going to be super smooth. It's going to take you several months to build this up. But let's see how you go through it a second time.
From the top?
Yeah, from the top.
Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavantang Abhivatemi.
Nice.
Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasemi.
Sami.
Ami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangkang Namami.
Wow, big improvement, Nick. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, the big difference between the first time and the second time. Absolutely outstanding.
All right.
Yeah, that's practice. That's what we call practice, right? Being determined and diligent and never giving up, and wonderful. So yeah, keep going with that, and we'll practice next week like this as well on our 4th time. So keep practicing like that and keep improving. So that was a remarkable difference.
Oh, thanks. I think it helps volunteering in this setting like this.
Definitely. I think it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Who would like to chant next?
I don't mind giving it a try.
Okay. Get a female voice going. Females usually have very beautiful chanting. No pressure, Manal. No pressure.
That wouldn't be me then. The triple gem is actually one of the tougher ones that I've had in practice in terms of memorization. But I'll still try to give it a shot.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivatemi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang namasami. Supatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho sangha namami.
Wow, really nice, Manal. Excellent. I think that's the first time I've ever heard you chant. That's outstanding. Really beautiful. Really beautiful. Yes, probably settling into it a little bit more. This is your first time, I think, volunteering after all these months. So probably a little bit apprehensive, maybe, perhaps. I'm not sure. But how did it feel for you?
Oh, very, the apprehension is definitely there. And it has always been something of a shyness that I've had pretty much my whole life, and speaking in public, etc. So definitely apprehension is there generally.
Okay, in that case, let's do it again.
Okay.
This is training. This is what your teachers do to train, help you train.
Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavanang Abhivadeyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang namasami. Supatipano bhagavato sāvaka sangho sangha namami.
Nice, Manal. Wow, big difference. Very big difference. Amazing. You guys know that when I publish the podcast, I have to give it a title for what the title of the class is. I think I might call this one like the greatest hits or something, like, James, Bassam, Nick, Manal, and whoever else is greatest hits. That would be a good title for today's class. You guys are doing really, really well. This is outstanding. Thank you, Manal. Anybody else have any, or anybody else would like to volunteer? Oh, I see Judith raising her hand, her physical hand. I don't know if you can see that, James.
Okay, I've asked Judith to unmute.
Oh, it works now. So I do the melody that I can, right?
Yeah, you chant however you like to chant, Judith, and I'll just listen and we'll all enjoy hearing your beautiful voice.
Okay, thank you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham namami.
Wow, outstanding. Wonderful, Judith. Wonderful. That was so beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah. That was amazing. You guys see, right? The difference between the male voice and the female voice. Very different tone, very different sound. Very nice. Anyone else? Oh, we got Holly all the way from Alabama. Going to do some Buddhist chanting in Alabama. Here we go.
You don't want to go first, for sure. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavanang Abhivademi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo
Good job, Holly. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, all of us, I mean, there's probably more, maybe more that would like to volunteer, but I would just like to say this, like, if we were all in the same room together and in a temple with the really nice acoustics, with Bassam having his tone and James having his deeper tone, and some of you like Holly and Judith having a little bit higher tone, if you can imagine all these tones blending together and harmonizing, it would just sound so beautiful. So someday, when we're all in Thailand together and there's lots of people around, we'll all be chanting this together, and it'll just sound so beautiful, because independently we're all working on our practice, and then when we come together, we participate together, and it just sounds so beautiful. So the work that you guys are doing in your own practice is benefiting you, but we're going to have something really special when we come together as a group someday and we all chant this together and we all harmonize with all of our different tones of voice. It's just going to sound beautiful. So this is outstanding. I can already visualize it in the mind. Thank you, Holly. I appreciate that. I don't really have any feedback for you or Judith or even Manal, really. You guys are sounding really nice. All right. Who else would like to volunteer? All right. No volunteers? We'll go to the next chant then. Let's go to the Namo Tassa. Who would like to volunteer on this one? This one is a little bit easier, so sometimes there's people who didn't volunteer for the first one that would like to volunteer for this one. All right, we've got Nick volunteering already. And anybody who hasn't volunteered yet, you're welcome, because this one people tend to kind of jump in a little bit more readily because it's a little bit more straightforward. All right, we got the video this time, Nick. We get the whole experience.
I thought I had the video on for the last one. I apologize. But yeah, I want the video on for these.
Yeah, we would like the whole experience, buddy.
Sounds good. Yeah, this one's fairly easy. This is the first one I picked up. I think I have this one memorized.
Okay, let's hear it.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Nice, Nick. Very good. Very good. I'm hearing some beautiful things there. It's all memory for you. As you keep doing this more and more, and it gets committed to memory more and more, it's just going to sound more and more beautiful, because I can already hear it there. You've got all the building blocks. It's just getting the memory to remember it so that it comes out really smooth. But that's sounding great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Who's next?
I'll volunteer for this one, David.
Okay.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Nice. Good job, James. Good job. The only thing I was going to mention to you, because I know you're further along in terms of you've been practicing this more, is just the tempo. Remember that metronome that I talked about before? There's Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Right? Just kind of get that rhythm into the mind and kind of think about that as you're chanting. So that will help kind of smooth it out and kind of bring it together for you. But good job. Very nice. Who's next?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, Egypt. Here we go. This is like the Olympics. We've had two. We have had New York, South Carolina. We had Alabama, New Jersey. Now we've got Egypt. Oh, we had Spain earlier. Let's go, Egypt. Let's see what you got.
Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa. Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa. Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhasa.
All right, good job, awesome. I'm gonna have to get all these gold medals ready. You guys are all gonna be at the top of the platform. You got to make room for each other. All right, Judith, Manal, Holly.
Sure, I'll go.
Okay.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Okay, good job, Manal. Representing New Jersey. Very nice. Nick's up there in New York, so you guys are close by. All right, who's next? There we go. Alabama's coming in. Representing the South.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Nice. Holly's been practicing for sure. I'm sure all of you guys have been practicing. Wonderful. Very good. I just don't have much feedback for you guys. Usually I have a ton of feedback for everybody, but you guys are doing wonderful. I've done these classes in the past where usually there's like 3 different things that I'll usually comment on for people, but you guys are all doing wonderful. Judith had her hand up earlier. James, I don't know if you can see because she's doing it with her physical hand, and if you don't have her camera up, you won't be able to see her hand.
Thank you for pointing that out, David. I've asked her to unmute, of course.
Okay.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa.
Beautiful, Judith. Very beautiful. You've got the memorization down. You've got the tone. I mean, like right on, like solid. The only thing I would mention is like the tempo. Just kind of try to keep it moving forward. It's beautiful the way you do it, though. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. But if you were chanting in a group, we wouldn't all be doing that up and down like that. But just absolutely beautiful the way you're doing that. But just try to keep the tempo kind of even keel, so to speak. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? All right. Let's move on to the next one then. The ETPiso. This one tends to be a bit challenging. So for those of you guys that have been working on this for just 2 weeks, this one was probably a bit more challenging for you, but let's see where you're at, see how you're doing. So who would like to volunteer for this one?
I can start us off, David.
Perfect. Thanks, James.
Iti piso bhagava arahang sama sambuddho vicha charanang sampuno sakato roga vitu anutero purisa dhamma sati sata jawa manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati.
Nice. Good job, James. Good job. I would like you to do that last phrase again. I'm going to help you with some of the pronunciations, and I'll kind of chime in at the right time.
Okay. Anutero.
Anutaro.
Anutaro.
Yep.
Anutaro purisa dhamma sati sata dawa manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati.
Yes, perfect. Perfect. Good job, James. All right. Sounding good. We're definitely going to get our greatest hits together for sure. When you guys are here in Thailand, we'll have to record it. Who's next? Do you see Judith raising her hand, James? There she is. Okay.
Who goes first?
Yeah, you can go. You can go, Judith. The thing is that I don't know how James has his Zoom set up. Mine's got all the cameras across the top, but I can only see like 5 of you, and the other ones kind of like are out there. So I don't know if James can see you physically raising your hand, but there's a way that you can electronically raise your hand, and then you'll kind of you'll ding up in the queue, and we'll be able to see it better.
Beta. I finally learned where that is. Okay. Okay. So I go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. Etipiso bhagava araha. No, I lost it completely, right? Did I?
No, you were right on it. Yeah, you were right on it.
Really? Is this one melody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vicha charanang sampuno sakato roga vitu anutero purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati.
Nice. Very good. So beautiful, Judith. You should be teaching this class, I think. Very nice. All right. Mr. Nick's got his hand up.
Itipiso bhagava arahang sama sambuddho.
Nice.
Vicha charanang sampuno sakato roga vito anutero purisa dhamma sati sata dewa manu sanang Puto Pakawati.
Wonderful, Nick. That's outstanding for just 2 weeks. That is outstanding.
Oh, thank you very much.
It took me years before I was able to chant this one. I didn't even get to this one for many years into my practice. So you are like 2 weeks into this and already got that good for this one. This is a very challenging one. For me, it was very challenging. So you did that extremely well for 2 weeks. Wonderful.
Thank you, teacher.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for volunteering.
My pleasure.
Anyone else? All right, we've got Holly coming in.
Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacharana sambuddho sakato roka vitu anutiro purisa dhamma sati sadavadananusanam bodho bhagavati.
Oh, really nice, Holly. Very good. I see what you guys have done. I told you this was the most challenging one, and you guys have all like kind of worked on mastering this one to show me that I was wrong and I wasn't speaking the truth, and it's not the hardest one, right? That's what you guys have done, because you guys are doing this one outstanding. This is, to me, is a really challenging one. Holly, one thing I would like to help you with, though, is your pronunciation on the last line. Can you do the last line again?
The last line?
Yeah, the anutaro. I would like to help you with that one. I heard some pronunciations that I would like to just help you
I
with.
heard it too. I don't know what I messed up. Okay. Anutira purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusanam bodho bhagavati.
Okay, you did it that time. There was no correction needed. I think you just fumbled a little bit the first time through.
Yeah, and also the first one was harder for me to learn than the third one for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, the first chant was more challenging for you? Okay.
Yeah, it took me it took me longer to learn that one. The third one came really easy. I don't know why, but the first one was like hard for me. So
Well, there's impermanence, right? Like for me, this one was really challenging, but not for everybody, right? It's not like that permanently. It's not for everybody. So wonderful. That's really nice. You guys are doing this one outstanding. Put a challenge in front of this group and they knock it out of the ballpark. Very good. Anyone else would like to try this one?
Sure, I can go.
Okay, Manal, New Jersey. Here we go.
Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vichacaranan sampuno sakato roga vitu anutaro purisa dhamma sati satatawa manusanam bodho bhagavati.
Nice, Manal. Very nice. Very good. You guys are warmed up now. That's what it is. You guys got the vocal cords warmed up and greased up. All right. Wonderful. Anyone else would like to practice this one? I haven't heard from Bassam. Is he still online?
Yeah, but actually my practice was focused on the first two parts.
Okay. If you'd like to try this one, you can. Of course, you're not going to be perfect. You're not a perfectly enlightened Buddha, right? So you're not going to be perfect, but you're welcome to volunteer if you like, but up to you.
Actually, I didn't even try to practice it.
Okay. Oh, you haven't even tried. Okay, no worries. Yeah, that's what I did too. I did like the Namo Tassa for like 6 months. And then I started doing the Arahang Sammasambuddhasa, and then like a few years later, I started adding the ETPSO, because back then I was working and I had a couple businesses, and I didn't have hardly any time to devote, or I didn't take any time for my practice, which led to a lot of discontentedness and a lot of bad decisions. But when you reprioritize your life and you make decisions to take time for your practice, then you are able to practice more. So this is just where you're at, that you've practiced the first and second one, but you haven't practiced this one yet. So that's completely fine. All right. So, curious. That's probably the last person, right? Is there anyone else that would like to do this one? Okay. Curious, would you guys like to end class here, or would you like to do meditation together? I'll give you guys the opportunity to make a decision. I think we can actually do a poll in this thing. Let's see. Doesn't Zoom have some kind of like group poll or something? There it is, polling. Okay, ask question. Edit. Oh, I can't figure it out. It's doing all kinds of weird stuff. All right. So anybody who would like to leave and finish class now, raise your hand so I can see your hand if you'd like to end class now, or either electronically or visually. Okay, so we got one. All right, who would like to do meditation now? Anybody would like to do some meditation? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, Judith, 4. Okay, everybody would like to do meditation. Okay, or not everyone, but everyone who I can see anyway. All right, so let's do meditation together then. Okay, let's do this. Let's go with our chants. We'll go one time through Arahang Namo Iti Piso. Go into meditation, and then after meditation, Arahang Namo Iti Piso. Just do one time. Okay, and we'll switch the slides so that those of you guys that need that, James and I will be switching those in order for you guys to see them. Okay. All right. So take a nice deep breath. Just kind of settle in, right? Get in your meditation position. Shift your dog around there, Judith. Get your little girl in the right spot. All right. Bring your hands together. Nice deep breath. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Sawakato Mahakavata Tammo Namang Namasami Supadhipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho vichacharanang samhuno sakhato rokavito anutero purisa namasati satatawa manusanang Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, just bring the body into meditation position. Comfortable, but not luxurious. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Your breath doesn't have to be synced up to my guidance. These are just cues just to remind you. But this is your practice. Even when we're meditating as a community, it's your practice. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. The breath should be natural, just a nice, steady, consistent breath. Experiencing the whole breath, slowly coming into the body and then slowly exiting the body. Breathing in and out. Fixate the mind on the breath. The breath is the present moment. The mind can reside peaceful when it's in the present moment. Breathing in and out. And breathing in and out. If the mind wanders off the breath to the past, the future, any thoughts, ideas, perceptions, just cut it off and let it go. Bring the mind to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. Just focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาควาพุทธังมหาควันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะควาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมโมโนสักขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรภุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภควาติ All right. Nice little meditation there. I would like to just give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you might have on chanting or meditation, the middle way, the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, anything that we've been discussing in class or that you've been reading, anything that's been coming up in your practice. This is an opportunity for you to have questions and get answers to those. So I'll see if anybody has questions in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. You can put those into the comment section. Our moderators, James, Bassam, and Manal will see those. And if you're in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and you'll be called on so that you can get your question asked during the class and any follow-up questions as well. So any questions you guys have at all about any of the Buddhist teachings or anything that's coming up in your practice?
Has a question, David, so I'm going to ask her to unmute.
Sure.
Hello. I have a question. Sometimes I see Thai people, they pray, each person sings a different melody but all together. And sometimes they sing the same melody together. And sometimes I see it's more like they're reciting without a melody, very, very fast. And sometimes they sing very melodiously, very slow. And I don't know if there are different meanings to that or if there's something cultural that I don't know, that I should know about that.
Yeah, there's different ways to do chanting, and each temple will have a different way. And there's different types of chants and different ways of chanting. They have, common chanting. They have higher level, like royal chanting and all these different things. And there's people here in Thailand that are like real experts and specialize in just chanting. And they'll even have like once a year, different temples will come together and they will kind of display their chanting with each other. And I used to listen to some recordings like this, and you could hear like one temple chanting, and then they would finish, and then another temple. It's like kind of in a big joint event, like a community event. And people cultivate their chanting this way. So you would have to ask each person and each community, each temple, kind of what's the purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. I wouldn't know since I'm not part of those environments, but that's what I do know, is that there's different types of chanting. There's common chanting like what we do. There's kind of like royal or higher level chanting. There's different kind of like times a year where people come together and work on their chanting and specifically work on that. And there's places that are experts and kind of specializing in this. And if there's someone who has a real interest in chanting, this is where you can seek out guidance in those kind of places. And this is where once a student has a real good foundation in the teachings with one particular teacher, they might actually branch out and kind of like start to explore with other teachers and different things like this. There's some temples that will kind of have the monks study for like 6 years concurrently at that temple. And then after that, they kind of roam around and kind of learn with different other master teachers, because this only helps to deepen their practice. But they kind of get them really firmly rooted and on a good foundation with all these teachings first. And the one temple that I'm thinking about, they do that for 6 years. And then once that monk or that ordained practitioner is well rooted in the teachings, the master teacher allows them to travel around and explore. I don't have any kind of rules like that. You guys can explore however you like, but I do suggest for a minimum of at least 1 year minimum that you just focus solely on learning with me, because that'll build up your foundation. And if you spend more time than a year, that'll be even better. Each person's a little bit different, but it takes about a year to go through this book twice. If you're doing kind of a chapter a week and you're coming to these classes, it'll take a year to go through this about twice. But then the Words of the Buddha program, it takes 7 months to go through the whole book series that I have here. And if someone did that twice, that would be another year essentially. So if somebody did all of that and then continue to need more teaching beyond that, then they might decide to kind of branch out. But that's what I would suggest, is like learning with just one teacher consistently and developing your practice. But in terms of chanting, if you were just interested in learning chanting and you went out somewhere and learned that, no big deal. But in terms of the teachings themselves, while we all refer to the Pali Canon as the original source, there's multiple translations of the Pali Canon. So every teacher is kind of using their own translations. And not only are there different translations from different people, but there's different interpretations of those translations. So by staying with one teacher for an extended period of time, then what you do is you gain as much insight and you kind of soak the mind into as much learning as you can with that one teacher. And then if you would like to kind of branch out, you can, but you'll notice that people use different words, different ways of explaining it. There's some teachers that will tell you there's a wholesome desire. There's such thing as a wholesome desire, which I wouldn't say. I would never say there's such thing as a wholesome desire. So if a student was learning with me for like a month and then they learned with this other teacher too, they'd be like, hold on a second, like David and this teacher, who are both sharing Theravada Buddhism, are sharing two completely opposite things of each other. Why is that? Because the mind's craving permanence. So by training with just one teacher and really soaking that up, then when you branch out and you learn from other teachers, you can come back to your primary teacher and say, hey, I was sitting in on a Dhamma talk with this other teacher and they said there's such thing as a wholesome desire, but you say that there isn't. Can you help me understand why you say there isn't a wholesome desire and what's your perspective on that? It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about understanding the perspective. And then when you see the truth for yourself, then you'll understand the truth and you'll know for yourself because you've investigated and you've sorted this out and you've practiced to see what's the real truth. So I gave you more there than you were really asking for in terms of chanting, but I felt like since I'm suggesting that you explore other places, that you understand that that's really related to chanting. If you really soak the mind into the teachings that I'm sharing and then chose to go explore with another teacher in terms of the teachings, I would say do that after at least a 1 or 2 year time frame.
I was wondering, David, if there's any significance to us learning these 3 particular chants and opposed to other chants that may be out there.
These are the 3 most common chants that you will hear most commonly when you move into Theravada Buddhist communities at various temples and events and things like this. You'll hear the Arahang Sama Sambuddhasa for sure. You'll hear the Namo Tassa for sure. You'll hear the Iti Piso almost guaranteed. But then there's going to be a whole lot of other chanting depending on what's going on in the event. There could be 30 minutes to an hour or more worth of chanting. And every temple will typically have a book, almost as thick as this one, with the chants that they use. And in the morning meditation, they will have certain chants that they'll sometimes chant for 30 minutes of chanting, and then they'll go into meditation. In the evening meditation session, they might do 30 minutes worth of chanting before they go into meditation, and that's their kind of standard protocol of what they do. But each temple is a little bit different in terms of what chants they've constructed and which ones they offer. It's based on the master teacher at that temple. And depending on the significance and importance they put into the chanting, they may have more or less of that. Because during the lifetime of the Buddha, he emphasized reciting the teachings. And part of that was through chanting, and that's how they memorized the teachings. And he discussed how somebody wouldn't be able to attain enlightenment without being able to recite the teachings. But that's because it was strictly an oral tradition. There were no books. So you had to be able to recite the teachings, and that was the only way for you to learn them and retain them in the mind. That's actually one of the criteria that the Buddha holds as part of attaining enlightenment. And various master teachers might put more emphasis in recitation of the Pali text, thinking that that's what's going to lead to enlightenment. But that by itself, it really, as I've shared, it doesn't really help the mind to attain enlightenment unless you're cultivating the things that I've shared. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, it did, because they understood the language that they were reciting in. Nowadays, when people recite in Pali, they really don't, for the most part, know what they're actually reciting. They're just memorizing the words. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was a primary practice in order to remember the actual teachings. But today, you don't have to do that because we have books and podcasts and videos. You don't have to actually remember word for word what do I say. You just need to draw in the content, understand it, reflect on it, practice it, and then see the truth for yourself, and then explain it in your own words and understand it in your own words. So recitation and chanting doesn't have nearly the significance nowadays as it did during the lifetime of the Buddha, and that's just impermanence, that we now are in a different place than we were. But you'll see various communities putting more or less significance on chanting. I've never seen, in my travels, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, I've never seen classes where lay people are learning chanting the way that I do with you guys, in the way that I did when I was teaching in America. I always observed that whenever I was in communities doing chanting, the lay people tended to be very lackluster and very complacent in their chanting practice. And it was always the monks who were kind of carrying the community in terms of their chanting, because they really chant really, really well, and they do it a lot, 2 times a day minimum. And the lay people are kind of like, na mo ta sa ha oh. I mean, this is even like Thai people who've been born into this tradition and that have been part of it for 50, 60 years. They really don't put a lot of emphasis into chanting. But when I started getting into this type of stuff, I always saw chanting as something that was interesting, that it was helpful, that it was beneficial. And I felt like, okay, if the monks are chanting and they're putting effort into it and they're doing their very best job to pronounce and enunciate the chants, then I should be doing the same thing. So I always put a lot of effort into learning the chants. And when I was in America, I led a very large community of several thousand people. And we would have once a year, we would have what's called a Y crew, where all the students who had studied over the year would kind of come in for one big event. And we would have hundreds of people there. It would be an all-day event. Sometimes we would do it for like a 3-day event or a 5-day event. And at those events, we would do chanting for probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours. And we would all chant. But we had a book that we would follow and we would go through it. And the monks were involved in the event, and I would lead the chanting for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes worth of chanting, and we would all do this together. And at that time, you know, there was a lot of effort put into that, but what I've realized on this path is that chanting itself, by itself, doesn't lead to enlightenment. There's certain aspects that you can cultivate in the mind through chanting, but I don't make it a priority because it's not the core path. It's not part of the Eightfold Path. So that's why I tell people that if you'd like to do chanting and develop that practice, here's how you do it. Here's the benefits that I have observed. You may observe some other benefits, but if you're not interested in chanting, no big deal. You don't have to chant. Like my wife, she doesn't chant. At one time in her life she did, but she doesn't chant at all. She just meditates, and she gets very good results with her practice. So chanting isn't required to attain enlightenment, but it can help you if you choose to develop the practice. And different communities will put different emphasis on it depending on what master teacher has decided to emphasize.
Speaking of the benefits of chanting, I've heard before that vocalizing, such as singing, can elevate the mood essentially, and I feel that I've felt that effect through chanting before. And I was wondering if you've ever heard of chanting having that effect, or if you've ever experienced it.
I agree. It does what the Buddha called gladdening the mind. That's one of the words he used, gladdening the mind, and bringing in kind of that enlightenment factor of joy, creates joy in the mind. I agree. I've experienced that as well. But there's some times when I'm too tired and I just go into meditation and I just do meditation only. And I don't chant because it's not permanent. Or sometimes what I'll do is like chant at the beginning of meditation. I'll go into meditation. Maybe this is my evening meditation, and I stay in meditation for a certain period of time, maybe an elongated time. And then when I come out of meditation, I realize, I'm too tired and I would like to just go to sleep, and I don't chant at the end. So even though I teach you guys to chant at the beginning and at the end, that's what I do as kind of like a standard practice, maybe like 80-90% of the time. But there's certainly times where I don't chant at all before meditation or after. And there's also times where I chant just before and I don't chant after. So that's the impermanent nature of your practice. And you just decide in the moment what's best for you. And there's some situations where at the end of meditation, in the moment, I realize, I'm too tired. I'm just going to go to bed.
Thanks, David. It appears we have no further questions.
Okay.
I would like to thank everyone who volunteered chanting, because I know personally that it can be a difficult thing to do. And we've had times in the past where we didn't really have volunteers, and that's fine, but it's also very inspiring to see so many people in the community come forward and show their progress in chanting, and I think it inspires and really uplifts the entire community.
I agree, James. Really well said. I support that 100%. Yeah, I agree. Thank you all for volunteering. Thank you for committing time, effort, and energy to your practice. It's a really wonderful thing to be able to come together, even here online, and hear you guys chant. It's very warming and very endearing to hear that you guys have taken your practice in a very dedicated and determined way, and that you've chosen to allocate time in your day to learning and practicing. And because of that, you get the benefits of the improved condition of the mind. That's your karma, cause and effect, action, result. And by practicing here and volunteering here today, that's your decision, and you get the results according to that. So that's your Gama, the results of your decisions. So this chanting can be really enjoyable and very fun. As James is saying, it can create a lot of joyfulness in the mind, give you a part of your practice that will continue to help motivate you and encourage you going forward. If you guys keep practicing, then next week we'll do something similar to this. As our fourth session of this chanting, we'll do something very similar to this, what we did today. And then each subsequent Wednesday after that, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. After our fourth chanting session, what we're going to do in the subsequent Wednesdays is we're going to do breathing mindfulness meditation one Wednesday, and then the very next Wednesday we're going to do loving kindness meditation, and then the very next Wednesday we're going to do chanting again. And then we're going to come back, breathing mindfulness, loving kindness, and chanting. So for the next part of the program, which I think we're almost time-wise, I think we're about halfway through, perhaps. We're about 2.5, 3 months into the program out of a 7-month program. For the remaining portion of our program on Wednesdays, we will rotate these, breathing mindfulness, loving kindness, and chanting. So now that we've spent a good amount of time on each individual one of these over multiple sessions, we'll just touch on them repeatedly throughout the program and kind of helping you to brush up on your practice of breathing mindfulness meditation, loving kindness meditation, and chanting, and kind of keep your practice moving forward, every 3 weeks or so. So on Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 7, which is the 5 precepts. And this chapter really helps you to understand right action of the Eightfold Path more deeply. It helps you to understand right speech more deeply. And it goes into a lot of details of real application of the teachings into daily life. So when you read about, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, the Buddha actually spoke words that were much more illuminating than that, even though there's some places that have kind of truncated what he shared into those kind of shorter versions. He didn't exactly share it that way. And in chapter 7, you'll see his actual words of how he actually shared this, which I feel are much more illuminating and provide more benefit and more insight into what he was actually teaching with the 5 precepts. And then in that chapter, I go into application of that precept into your daily life so that you can see how to actually apply that precept into your daily life. So I'll see you guys on Sunday to talk about the 5 precepts, and then next Wednesday for our 4th session. And in the meantime, have a really lovely rest of your day. Enjoy whatever it is that you're going to do. And I'll see you either on Sunday or Wednesday, and maybe perhaps on Saturday for the Words of the Buddha Pali Canon and English Study Group. So take care. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.